almost Christmas. I don't know about you guys, but I am so excited. This year is the first year that Freya can kind of unwrap things, and she just gets so excited about everything, especially Barbie. She loves Barbie, so I'm very excited for that. And Sebastian is a normal 5-year-old little boy who loves any present you give him for the most part. So obviously, he can't wait either. Welcome back to my channel. If you don't know, my name is Brittany. I'm so happy to have you guys here. If you are not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. I'm trying to reach 3,000 by the end of the year, and there's obviously not a lot of time left. If you guys could help me get there, and even maybe go a step further and share my content to bring it to a wider audience, it would be amazing, and I'd be so grateful. Anyways, thank you guys for being here, and let's dive into our spooky topic for the day. There's plenty of people that experience ghostly encounters, but with her, it was literally taking over her life, and not in a good way. During the winter of 1988 and 1989, Jackie Hernandez was pregnant with her second child. She was really happy to have this child, to be pregnant with this child. But that happiness would get overshadowed because her marriage was not good. And she would actually end up getting divorced that same year. At the age of 23, Jackie would move with her 2-year-old son, Jamie, from LA to San Pedro, California. And that's when her life would literally turn into a living nightmare. Jackie would start to hear strange sounds that she couldn't quite explain, as these high-pitched screeching noises that seemed to come from inside her walls, or the sound of something shuffling in the attic. Although I feel like if anybody heard these, they'd be a little alarmed, but maybe it could be marked up to animals, either, mice in the walls or a squirrel in the attic or bat or whatever. However, the activity would increase. One night, Jackie and her friend were in the kitchen. They would be cooking, and they would suddenly see several orbs of light float through the room. Jackie went to take a picture, and when she did, she would see the face of an emaciated old man staring at her through the window. Obviously, she was scared. But when she went outside to look for the man, there was no sign of him. She ended up confiding in her ex-husband about what was going on, and he thought that it was a good idea to call out the spirit. But she didn't really know the best way to do that. So her friend, Susan, went to Jackie's landlord and kind of gave him the rundown of everything that was going on. He thought that the best route would be to bring in a priest. So Jackie did just that. She went and she talked to a priest. They had come in, and they were pretty horrible. They looked around the house and decided Jackie was possessed by the devil. And then they left. So not really helpful. But then it got worse, because the next day, CPS, so Child Protective Services, showed up to Jackie's house looking for drugs. It turns out that those priests had called CPS and said that Jackie was using hallucinogenics while pregnant. So with literally never seeing the drugs, nothing. It was just because she's like, I'm having these experiences, I'm really scared. And they accuse her of being possessed. And then they go a step further and try to have her child taken away from her. I could rant about this, but I'm not going to. Even though she was not using hallucinogenics, she did think that she was going crazy at times because of what was happening. But she was like, oh, maybe it's just the pregnancy. Her cat would chase shadows around the house, and one day she saw a pencil fly out of a pencil holder. And there was one instance where Jackie had brought in the groceries, and on her fridge, written on the magnets, spelled, "Get the hell out." In this instance, there was no sign of a break-in, and nothing had been moved. So after Jackie's daughter was born, activity would ramp up. A week after she was born, Jackie had gone up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. And on the way to the bathroom, she would see an old man glaring at her and then vanish. There's another night And this was after Jackie had put both of the kids to sleep. So they were asleep in their beds. And she heard this raspy breathing sound. So she's like, I need to figure out what that is because it's alarming. So she followed the sound all the way to her son's bedroom, where she would see an old man sitting next to her son, glaring at her with red eyes. I would panic. Like, I have literally seen spirits next to my bed, but if they were next to my children who were alone and sleeping, that would probably be the most terrifying thing to me. So after Jackie saw the old man sitting next to her son, she would find a blood-like substance that began oozing from the walls while she was cleaning one night. From that day on, she would find herself surrounded by puddles of blood when she was in the kitchen. Objects would also start to fly across the room. On top of this activity, Jackie would have these horrible nightmares. She would vividly recall dreaming of a younger man being clubbed with a lead pipe and drowned by his killer in San Pedro Harbor. She said it looked like it was the 1930s, and when she was dreaming, she was the victim. So she experienced being drowned and experienced fighting for her life while losing consciousness. Everything was really taking a toll on Jackie. Like, these weren't good hauntings. And she was kind of at a loss. So her friend Susan had seen this paranormal investigator on TV named Barrie Taff and was like, hey, you should reach out to him. So Jackie did just that. Barrie Taff had investigated more than 3,000 paranormal cases within 25 years. He believed that most of the cases were duds and that they weren't really worth pursuing. A lot of fabrication, invention, embellishment, and straight up people literally making things up. However, when he heard about Jackie's case, he was instantly intrigued. On the night of August 8th, 1989, Barrie and 3 investigators would go to San Pedro to interview Jackie. As soon as they got there, they would smell this horrible smell that would fill the room. And they'd hear these loud banging sounds that were coming from the attic. Barrie would later say that it sounded like a 200-pound rat was running around the attic. Like, these are loud sounds.
What happened? It's something grabbed that out of my hand. I'm not kidding. Somebody grabbed the whole thing out of my hand. Just now. It grabbed the whole thing out of my hand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hear it? Hear it?
He's walking back and forth up there.
It is walking, definitely.
Yes.
Quiet, everyone. Shh, quiet.
There has been noises in this room that come from right in the center, right here.
Go ahead and talk.
That's where the noises come from. Sometimes there's a noise like a deep hum, and it's come from right here in midair. It's come from right in the center.
So you've heard noises in this room?
Oh yeah, deep humming. It comes from right here, right in the center of the room.
So one of Barrie's cameramen had went up to the attic to figure out what the source of the noise was. And he said that he literally had the camera ripped out of his hands and thrown. The lens was later found laying several feet away from the camera.
Getting behind over my shoulder, maybe into the third frame, all of a sudden, it just pulled out of my hand.
I heard a scream, and at that point, my blood froze within my veins. I was so frightened because I knew something had happened, but I didn't know what. Shortly after that, he came out of the attic, and he was totally panicked.
When the team had went back, cameraman Jeff Wheatcraft had went back into the attic. There he would be attacked by an entity. It was said that this entity had wrapped a clothesline around Jeff's neck and attempted to hang him from a protruding nail.
His voice was shaking when he spoke. His glasses were gone, and he was sweating even, and he was terrified. This was a man who went up into the attic who, in that split second, his whole belief system changed. You know, from, or had to have, he experienced something that he never thought was even real.
We know that there was no one else in the attic. That's a given fact. We know that. We had the attic thoroughly checked out. There was no one else up in that attic that night.
The moment Gary turned to go towards the trap door, I took one step. After that one step, I don't remember what happened, except I do remember then, all of a sudden, that my neck was tightened, and brought against the attic rafter.
There's no way that Gary could have done anything to cause Jeff to be hung in the attic or played any kind of trick on him, because he was in the attic door. We were talking to him when the actual hanging occurred, and he was right there. And the timing was, there's no way that Jeff could have done it himself, because he was only away from Gary for a few seconds.
But if an entity was really trying to do that, that is truly terrifying.
That night after Jeff got hung, the baby was by the front door, and she was in a carrier, and she was wide awake. And I had passed her a few times, and every time I looked down at both of the kids to make sure that they were okay, because I was very worried about them. And I had even asked, or told it and demanded that it stay away from my children in no uncertain terms. In fact, that same night in the bedroom, I said, just stay away from my kids. And it seemed, Sue was the first one to notice it. I had passed Samantha seconds before and nothing was on, she was fine. Then Sue passed and she noticed that there was a red mark on the baby's forehead. And she asked about it, and that's when I noticed it, and it wasn't on seconds ago. And it freaked me out because it came so close to my kids. And it was almost as if it was saying to me, hey, I can do what I want to. Don't tell me not to mess with your kids, because if I want to, I will. I can do anything I want.
I don't know. Look at what's on the baby. Come on, you guys. Let's go. Please, let's go. Please, let's go. Please, what happened to her? Oh, my God.
It wasn't something that hurt her in any way. She didn't even realize what had happened, I don't think. She didn't make a peep. It was just, the material that was used was kind of like a lipstick or grease paint, and it was just a slash across her head. And I had the same thought as when the blood came out of the walls, is just get it off of her as quick as possible, because to me, that was part of it on my daughter, and I did not want that on her at all.
Jackie had reached a breaking point when the spirit started to play with her son's toys to garner her attention. First, it threw a beach ball into the living room, and when she went to get it, she would be attacked. Jackie would be grabbed by an invisible hand and held down where she couldn't breathe. When she finally got to her feet, she grabbed a baseball bat and ran up to the attic. She then called the spirit out, and it appeared in front of her. She then called Barrie and his team for help, took the kids, and got the hell out of Dodge. In the fall of 1989, Jackie and her husband attempted to rekindle their marriage. They moved to Weldon in Kern County and tried to start over. Within a couple weeks, Jackie started to feel comfortable again, and she was comfortable in their home. The area was rather remote, and she only had a few neighbors. Their rekindling didn't really last long, and he would move out. And then the activity would start again. Jackie and two of her neighbors were moving a TV into a shed, and all three of them saw an image of an old man, the screen. And she said that night she was kept awake. Someone banging from the inside of the shed, wanting to get out. So she called Barrie again, and him and his team were there a few nights later. When they got there, they couldn't get their cameras to work. Something kept switching off the equipment. So she suggested that they used a Ouija board. And as soon as they started, the table would start to shake. And the session ended when Jeff was thrown against the trailer by an unseen force. The conversation of the session is as follows. Question: how long have you been trapped in the spirit world? Answer: 60 years. Question: did you die in the San Pedro house? Answer: no. Question: where did you die? Answer: San Pedro Bay. Question: did you drown? Answer: no, I was held underwater. Question: did you live in the San Pedro house? Answer: my murderer. Jackie says that the spirit revealed that he had been born in 1912 and died in 1930. Her and her friend had discovered old newspaper reports of the death of a seaman named Herman Hendrickson, whose body was found floating under a pier on March 25th, 1930. Herman was 10 years older than the age that was indicated in Jackie's transcript. He had a jagged wound on top of his head, and the coroner had determined that he had drowned. The authorities had stated that he was not murdered, but instead had fallen on the dock and hit his head, which accounted for the wound, and then had drowned in result of that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the case. Anyways, let's talk about the other spirit. Jackie and her friends said that they learned that the bungalow was built by a man named John Damon. They believe him to be the old man that Jackie was seeing. Jackie would stay in the Weldon trailer until the summer of 1990 and then move back to LA. Jackie said that John Damon made a graceful exit. While visiting in San Pedro in the spring of 1990, she saw a ball of light, bright enough to make a pretty big difference and easily be seen despite it being broad daylight, outside of the house where she was staying. She followed the light to a nearby graveyard where it hovered over a stone, marking the grave of John Damon. And she hasn't seen the other spirit since. Like with every paranormal case, I feel like there's believers and non-believers. I feel like that's just kind of how it goes. But she was truly terrified by what she was experiencing. And the investigators who did investigate this do believe that there was something there. And this spirit followed her. It wasn't just attached to the house. It might have started that way, but then it almost became attached to her. Let me know what you guys think about this case in the comments down below. If you have any paranormal experiences that you would like to share with me, I would love to hear them. You can go ahead and email me at brittanyburghost@gmail.com. Like I said, I'm really hoping to get to 3,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So please make sure to like this video, make sure you're subscribed, and if you can share my videos, I would love that too, or tell people you know about them. I hope that you guys have a wonderful Christmas, and until my next video, love you guys, bye.
You don't know what it's like. You know, you can't describe the feeling. It's like as if a woman who has a baby cannot describe giving birth, you know, the whole thing, even to a guy, even to another woman who's never had a baby. You can't describe the labor or anything like that. But once you experience it, you know what it's like. It's the same, it's kind of like the same thing, because when you experience something, then you know, there's no doubt in your mind, you know, and you're no longer skeptical.